Welcome to the start line of the first Richmond Yacht Club Beercan race of the 2024 season. To set the scene for you here, we have wind out of the west at 20 to 22 knots here at the start. Out on the course, it's more like 25 to 28. The small boats have just started and are already out and on the course. We're the last start, which is the spinnaker class over 30 feet. The course is to go out basically to the west to a red channel marker and then back into the finish.
Okay, tacking it.
The people on board with us today are JP in the red life jacket, Scott with the greenish beanie on, he's the same person that went down the coast with us this last summer, Ira, my wife, trimming jib, and that's me at the helm.
Got a trophy in front of you and move forward.
So there's a few different things going on here. That horn you just heard is the start. Scott is tailing and JP is grinding in. We tell Scott to stand up so that he's pulling the line up away from the bunch of line on the drum so that he doesn't get any overrides. And then this is more of a racing jib, which means that its foot is really low. It also means that it unfortunately doesn't clear the stanchions. So every once in a while, if you don't pull it in fast enough through a tack, you have to have somebody go forward and pull it up over the stanchions so you can pull it in nice and tight. And once we get everything set, we're on our way until what happens next, which is the jib halyard slips through the clutch a little bit. If you've watched our three-bridge fiasco race, you'll know that we had a jib halyard snap in the middle of a race, and it looked a whole lot like that just happened. So what we're thinking right now is that the jib halyard that the jib is currently on had just chafed through, and the jib just hadn't dropped all the way. In reality, it had just simply slipped through the clutch, and we were able to put it on the cabin top winch, retighten it, and just leave it on the winch for the rest of the race. We never got it quite as tight as we would like, but we were able to recover from this and continue with the race. of the things that I'm doing as I'm going through these tacks is I'm holding the boat to weather just a little bit longer so that the team has a chance to get the jib in inside the lifelines before I come down and fill the jib up again. It just saves the effort of somebody going forward and skirting. Yes, we do lose speed. It's not optimal, but with a bit of a short-handed crew, it's sometimes easier to do this rather than have somebody go forward each time and pull the jib over the lifelines and then tighten in the rest of the way. As we head out the channel and into the main channel, we have current coming into the bay. So it's a flood tide. It's actually pushing us towards our mark, which is really helpful. The issue, though, is that as we head out this channel, what I would love to have done is been able to tack on to port tack and then been lifted up to the mark with current helping us get there as well. What happened instead is we were on starboard tack, going sort of parallel to the mark that we wanted to get to, and we were getting lifted continuously all the way, not to the mark entirely, but just to a point where we would have sort of a parallel shot over towards the mark. You can see that lift occurring if you keep track of where the boat's pointed on land. Right now it's pointed towards what's called Raccoon Straits between Angel Island and Tiburon. And over the course of the next few shots, what you'll see is the bow pointed slowly more and more to the right, which means that when we tack and head for the mark, the bow of the boat's going to be pointed just as much to the right and not on course for the mark. At this stage, I wanted to hand the wheel over to Ira so that she gets a good amount of experience steering, both in light weather like we usually experience, and also in some of these heavier conditions, which we encounter every once in a while during the Beercan season. One of the things that I'm explaining to her is how we're getting lifted off to the right, and telling her that it's going to be a pretty shitty time once we tack because we're essentially going to be tacking into a header. At this point in the race, it's also blowing about anywhere from 25 to 28 out on the course. Our boat speed is around 7, and so what we're seeing is something between 32 to 35 across the deck. One of the other things that, if you haven't noticed so far, you might notice now, is that the first reef that we've got in is a little bit loose. One of the things that I'm going through right now is tightening up the second reef so it's not hanging in Ira's face. And then I go ahead and I try to tighten down the first reef that we've got in to get a little bit of a flatter profile on the main and a little bit less power in the foot. In the course of doing that, if you watch my face, you'll see an oh crap moment. There it is. I put the line around a redirector on the cabin seat backs, and then up to the electric winch that we have. And in putting that much strain on that little redirector without letting off the main at all before I tightened the reef down, I ended up hearing a big cracking noise in that little redirector, and I think damaged it slightly. I stopped early enough that it didn't pull it out of the deck entirely, but I did see it flex a decent bit and heard some cracking noises. So that's something that I'll have to come back to and fix at some point. One of the things that I've heard debated fairly heavily in conditions like this is whether you should drop the Traveler all the way down to the bottom and then play the main sheet in and out to release the head, spilling air out of the top of the sail, versus other people's perspectives, which is to move the Traveler as far up to the windward side as you can and then ease the boom down to the center, and you allow the head of the main to luff a little bit, and you keep the lower sections of the main full and pulling. I'm a proponent, as you can tell here, of moving the Traveler to windward and keeping the boom in the center line with the head of the main falling off and spilling air at the top, but keeping the main powered up and pushing you through swell sort of at the base of the main here. One of the things that allows you to do as well is, if you're going to power up the foot of the main, you can keep a bit of a fatter reef. We've got a bit too fat of a reef here, but if you keep a fatter reef in the foot, you have a little bit more pushing power to cut through and push through chop. So here I am trying to flatten our reef just a little bit more. It's just a little bit too fat of a reef for these conditions. We just don't need that much power in the sail. So I'm easing the main out this time. I've got the reefing line around the starboard side cabin top winch, and then if you missed it, I have the reefing line around the power winch, and when I let the main out, I just pushed the button for a couple times. It cinched down the reef, and then tightening the main sheet back in. We love our power winch. It makes things like this entirely possible, rather than having somebody toiling there trying to grind in quickly. It just takes the couple presses of a button to get something cinched down or tightened in. The other thing that I'm going forward to check on now is the jib halyard. I'm curious why it won't tighten up any further than it already has, and why we have a bunch of wrinkles in the jib still. I'd love to flatten the jib a little bit more by tightening the luff tension, but it's just not happening. I went up the mast maybe 3 or 4 days after this race and led some different lines down the mast, but also checked this out, and the splice on the halyard was just a little bit too fat to go through the shivs, or the opening between these two shivs in the top of the mast. And so I think it was getting hung up there and we couldn't get any more halyard tension. I've done some different things to try to fix that, but that was one of the annoyances during the race. And then at this point, Ira's mentioning to me that she's having a bit of a tough time keeping the boat in a straight line, because it's essentially blowing something between 32 to 35 across the deck, which is it's an entirely understandable thing to have a bit of a tough time steering. One of the things that she hadn't encountered before was having a boat this overpowered in these conditions and having to feather it up just a little bit. You can't always go bow down in conditions like this, especially if the boat's pretty powered up already. You have to kind of pinch to weather just a little bit. If you've ever sailed lasers or anything like that in heavy winds, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You just have to kind of have a little bit of a bubble in the front of the sail, not much, but just a bit to depower them slightly, flatten the boat a little bit, and keep it under control. The rule of thumb here for us was to keep the boat at about that level of heel that it's at right now, but going at least 7 knots, which for us is not as fast as we usually would like to go, but in these conditions, it's just sort of what we had to go with. So it was a good compromise to be able to keep the boat under control, but still move it in a decent clip to weather. So there I am handing it back to her, and she had a great opportunity to practice some of the different heavier weather skills that we were playing with during this day. And the other thing that we're looking at here is we're checking to leeward for a starboard boat that's going to be on a collision course with us, and they have rights over us, so you'll see in a moment we ease the main out and drop to their stern. We do it a little bit early. If you were in a really serious race, you'd be a little bit more aggressive of staying right on their stern, but with this much wind and sort of a short-handed crew and just everything that we were dealing with this day, we gave it a little bit, we gave the other boat a little bit more room and ducked them to their stern.
sail. Take a look at the sail. Ready? Get ready. No, not yet. Okay, good. Here. I'm gonna need the spear, guys.
So at this point, we've made our tack onto starboard, and we're heading for that mark. It's a tiny little blip out in front of us there between some of those boats. We're a little bit off the wind. We overstood a little bit, and we've also got current going from left to right here, so there's definitely no way that we're going to be miss the mark or not be able to round it. We're definitely going to be able to round it at this point. So we're footing off just a little bit, getting some speed up, just in general trying to come down and pass this boat that's beneath us so that we don't have to give them room at the rounding. One of the things that this boat really loves and was designed for is a fast reach. So while I try not to overstand marks, it doesn't make me entirely sad to overstand a mark here and there every once in a while, even by sometimes a bit more than I'd like. The boat can oftentimes make up some distance that we would have otherwise lost by some decent speed.
Tell me what to do. Don't give me options, okay?
Shane, wait, go back to the Shane. Shane, ever gonna die? Die? Yeah. What board you're at? Everybody making it.
Probably for a wind indicator.
I don't know what happened.
Hummingbirds.
Indicator. Okay. So we just relax? Is this the part where you relax? What?
What was it a spinnaker?
Are you gonna drive? Are you gonna drive? Okay, then let's not relax. Now let's relax. What do you guys call it for the music video? The Downwind, naked, kid.
Cockpit stripper party.
Traditional samples go Downwind stripper party. It's so funny. I was literally doing it. I was in my kitchen and I put a video on. I watched it and I was like, I'm like, you can't listen to like TVs on my computer. I hear Downwind stripper party. I was like, what? I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, exactly right. I was like, wow, that's good. Yeah, great title. Yeah. Audience show. It's the first part of this campaign. It's gone hard enough. It's been a hectic day. No more things. Just relax. Fly a kite. Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, I learned this snowboarding, but, like, you have to on the beach to get away, and it's like your big ball on the rock. It means your left foot's going to trip on something in a hole, and then if you keep running, your whole right knee is going to, like, fall on the ground, and you're going to splat face first up. But, like, once you get your toe, like, just stop. Like, don't ask for more. You're going to get to it.
So what I was explaining just there is why I preferred on this Beercan not to set a kite. Uh, Generally, if I were to sum up what my input was, it was that trouble is a snowball. We had a really rough start where we didn't show it here, but we essentially almost got T-boned, and we had some yelling on board and everything. And then it was a tough beat to weather. We're a little bit short-handed. We're with crew that maybe hasn't all set a kite with us together and practiced that. It was just something that I just felt like if we had done it, it was just going to continue the storybook of troubles that we were having for the day. So rather than do anything like make things more complicated, it's just a Beercan. We weren't going to win it anyways necessarily. So why worry? Just relax, kick your feet up, enjoy going downwind at a fast pace. And I'm actually kind of glad that we did, because one of the things that you'll see in a moment is the giant bird cage thing that's floating around, and that we almost hit during our 3-bridge fiasco race. And then that's exactly where the jib halyard snapped as well, was when we came down to not hit that. If we had a kite up right now, it would have just complicated things. We'd have to reach up a little bit and hopefully carry that angle. We have a barge coming in on the right-hand side, which you can see here, and that not many of us see at this moment in time, I don't think. So it's just, you can see the bird cage there on the right, as well as this other boat is just about to pass it right now. And it's just a piece of marine debris that still hasn't been removed. So yeah, it was just too complicated. It was just going to be a snowball of trouble had we set a kite. So we decided to just relax and enjoy the first Beercan of the series after a very hard beat to weather.
Yes. Sorry, I was just storytelling a little bit.
I'll give you an analogy of riding a bicycle and
good.
the wind.
That's not bad either. What is that? Where's the car for it? Oh, you're almost at Downwind. Just mind go. The jib's not crossed.
What happened to our wind indicator? Why is there one opening?
Jib's off. The jib is crossed. You know what that means, right? With boom.
I think that is
Jib collapses. Yeah, maybe. That's kind of a preview of what's going to happen. No. Oh, okay. Wait, then you kind of anticipate that's. That's always the job. Just keep steering your fastest forward. Right. If that thing's pointing all the way back, okay. So, boom, my feet off. What's that thing called? The wind thing. Okay, doing good. We're gonna make it. What? What? Oh no! Shit! Oh shit! Shit! What? Now you're good. I saw your face. That's it. Scared. I'm gonna put the main all the way up. Is that cool with you? Main all the way up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You know?
So while the power winch is really helpful in these situations, it's not invincible. As you can see here, I'm trying to let the reefing lines out to take pressure off of the power winch as it's lifting the mainsail up. And when I push the buttons here, nothing happens anymore. What that means is that I've blown a breaker down below for the power winch, and thankfully it still allows you to put a winch handle into the head of the winch. There needs to be no tension on the winch to do that, so that's why I have to let the tension off the line first and onto the clutch, and now I can start cranking it again and use it just as a normal winch and get the main the rest of the way up. And because we're going fairly deep downwind, I'm not super concerned with getting the halyard tension perfect. It just needs to be up. We're just trying to get as much cloth in the air as we can.
Did we use a bag? Alright, let's get ready for the drive.
Alright.
Want to do another one? Yes, there a little bit. Do it as you can, right? Gotta do it for my father or. Buddy? Oh, I call the main end. And someone will call the drive. Okay. Course is pretty darn good. So just keep it to the right of Killer Green. Don't come up any higher. Or we're gonna have to do another drive. Come down with the waves. Do we need to go for that mark? We will, yeah. But do we need to do it? We have to go to the
Aim it to starboard.
correct. Oh really? Yes. That's the finish. Oh wait, you mean red? This red. No, the red's just irrelevant. I think we can go deeper then. Yeah, could be. We can definitely go deeper. But we don't need to. I mean, you're going into a straight line into the finish line. If you do that, there's no more current here. You don't think so? No, because the tide is not pushing us here. The tide is going all the way to the bridge, but not here. Okay. There's the rocks over there. There's no tide.
Okay. It's vertical.
That's like I think you could be right, and then the start deck is right there on the left. Yeah. So we should be aiming. No, we should be aiming for the mark, which is the lowest, the closest point. I agree with you. Yeah, you're on it. You're on Killer Green, yep. Yes. Perfect. Oh. Yeah, sorry for the.
You're starting the next time. You're turned into an evil asshole.
Oh, look like you're about to get center much.
Yeah.
Also, I probably should practice sailing with you guys, not race.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think you were like reasonable. We do really shelter. What do you have holding the living room tonight? So, it's been alright. It's just always great to learn. I think that's what somebody's doing. You gotta do more practice.
Like, I was really experienced. Very, very. And I did ask him earlier,
the more you feel, the better. Including this one. We're still eating wild card, by the way, and they have like a chicken coyote. Mark? Yes. Like almost kissing Mark. Come all the way down. I'll go right away. Go around forward. Oh shit, dude.
So the thing we're talking about here, which unfortunately you can't see on screen, is there's a boat, a beam of us to the left or port side, and they're flying wing on wing sails, but their boom is on the port side, which means that they're on starboard tack technically, which means they have rights on us. And if they wanted to, they could be really mean and they could have pushed us out of the start line. They weren't really mean though, thankfully, especially because it's a beer can race. It just shouldn't be that serious. So they let us fit our way into the finish line there without having to do a little lap or a 360 or squeezing us out of the finish line.
You guys single family. Feel like this kid's doing it. Oh, fuck the trade. It's game burgers. Okay. These guys. Okay. Burn it? Yeah, let's burn it. So hang on 1 second. Okay. Let me catch up with you. Yeah, if you can come down so it'll make it easier for us to pearl. Yeah, and JP, you guys please come. Now the wind. Woo! Scott, you're like a lucky charm for like lots of weight. Oh yeah. And wait till you see this video. I suck at sailing, but I'm good at the other. You know you guys are these your cameras? What? No, these are theirs. Alright, left out Scott. Good, I'll start the motor. You want me to handle this? Yeah. And then, Scott, if you want a beer, I'm gonna have a beer because I fucking need a beer.
I need like 10. Okay, let's do the counting now that we have 8% left. Scott, how many beers do you need to recover from this start?
I haven't been drinking, so probably just one.
So So 3.
3.
And
Yes.
Shane,
I learned in
what's
Spain.
your number?
I learned in Spain to have 5. So I'll have 10.
Great. JPP,
What are we talking
how many beers do you need to recover from this start?
all of them from the.
All of them and a little bit of therapy?
All of them
yeah,
minus
probably
11.
need to call my therapist. You know,
Yeah.
that was not good. Anyway.
How many beers do I need? Like 8 to 18?
Somebody's gonna need to go buy more beers.
Well, we have 12, so we'll make the math
I think
work.
I'm the right person to do that. We're gonna be drinking 500% of them.
Did you grab the?
That is a perfectly acceptable amount of inflation for me.
Did you grab the like other dock light? It's in the.